there's a very specific feeling I want to start with today. It's this this feeling that I think a lot of us chase, maybe without even realizing it.
Okay.
It's like 11:30 at night, you're in bed, the only light is your phone, and you're scrolling.
The doom scroll.
No, not the doom scroll. This is the opposite. This is the hunt. You're on some forum or a marketplace, maybe an auction site, and you've been looking for this one thing for months.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a vintage camera lens, a first edition book. But for today, let's say it's a watch, a very specific reference number, discontinued 5 years ago. And then all of a sudden, boom, there it is.
The Holy Grail moment.
The Holy Grail, exactly. And the photos, they might be a bit grainy, the description's kind of short, but it looks right.
Yeah.
And you get this rush. It's like actual adrenaline.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're shopping for, I don't know, a toaster. It feels like you're Indiana Jones, like you've just found buried treasure.
That is a very potent psychological trigger. We actually see this in the research. It literally shifts your brain from what they call consumer mode into discovery mode.
Discovery mode. I like that.
You're not spending money anymore. You're acquiring an asset. You're winning.
Winning is absolutely the right word, because in the world we are diving into today, this whole second wrist economy, the pre-owned luxury watch market finding that piece feels exactly like winning the lottery.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about a market that is just, I mean, it's absolutely exploded. It's gone from this, niche hobby for guys in tweed jackets to a global financial battleground.
It really has. I mean, it's a full-blown asset class now, but, and this is the big but that we have to grapple with today, whenever you have a gold rush, what's the very first thing that shows up?
Clang jumpers?
Fool's gold. We are looking at a shadow economy today that is so massive and, frankly, so sophisticated, it is genuinely terrifying.
I was looking at the numbers you sent over in the source stack, and I honestly thought there was a typo.
The 40 million figure.
The 40 million figure. We're going to get to that. But you're right. We're not talking about, some guy selling cheap plastic knockoffs on a blanket in Times Square anymore.
Oh, not at all.
We are talking about an industrial scale crisis. We're talking about things they call superfakes and Frankenwatches. Which, I mean, that sounds like a monster. And they kind of are.
They are monsters, in a way.
It's a level of deception that is fooling even the experts.
It's an arms race. That's really the best way to frame it. But the good news is the good guys are finally getting some heavy artillery of their own.
Right. And that's the other part of our deep dive. We've got some pretty dense technical documentation on a new AI tool. It's called TrustWatch from a company called Hoken Tech.
Yep. Using machine learning to try and bring some sanity back to this whole mess.
So that's our mission today. We're going to map out this booming market. We're going to, look this counterfeit beast right in the eye. And then we're going to see if this new AI watchdog is actually up to the task of fighting back.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's start with the context. Because I think if you're not, deep in the watch world, you might be sitting there thinking, why buy used at all?
Right.
Traditionally, if you want a nice thing, you go to the store, you buy it new, you get the, the champagne, the bow on the box. Why is the pre-owned market exploding like this?
It's a fundamental shift in how consumption works for these kinds of goods. The secondary market isn't the alternative anymore. For a lot of collectors, for many of these key pieces, it's the only market.
The only market.
The only one. And the primary driver, the engine pushing this whole train is one word: scarcity.
Scarcity. Okay, sounds like an economics 101 term.
It is, but in the watch world, it's been, let's say, weaponized. Just look at our source material on waitlists.
This is the part that always just blows my mind. So you walk into a boutique for one of the big three, Rolex, Patek, Audemars Piguet, and you have, let's say, $50,000 in your pocket. You want to buy a standard steel sports watch. What happens?
They essentially laugh you out at the store. Or, they do something more polite, but it's just as frustrating. They'll take your name, they'll put it on a list.
The list.
The infamous list. And here's the reality of that list. For a popular model like a Daytona or a Nautilus, that list could be 5, maybe 10 years long.
10 years.
And this is kind of the dirty secret of the industry, it's a polite fiction. You are never, ever getting that call unless you already have a significant purchase history with them.
So wait, I have to buy 10 watches. I don't want to get the permission to buy the one watch I do want.
That's the relationship game. It's absolutely standard practice now. So think about what that does to the regular buyer, the person who just wants that one watch today.
It just pushes them right out the door.
It pushes them directly to the secondary market. It creates this huge, immediate, pent-up demand. And that demand, of course, creates premiums.
Right.
You can get that watch tomorrow from a dealer in Miami or Hong Kong, sure, but you're going to pay double, maybe even triple the retail price.
You're paying for the privilege of skipping the line.
Exactly.
So that's the new market bleeding into this secondary. But then there's the other side of it, which I got to say, I personally find more interesting. The stuff you literally can't buy new anymore. The discontinued references.
Yeah. This is where the collector psychology really kicks into high gear. I mean, the moment a brand announces they're stopping production of a specific reference, what happens?
Everyone suddenly realizes it was the most beautiful thing ever made, and they have to have one.
It's the classic, you don't know what you got till it's gone effect, but on steroids. The supply is now capped, it's finite. Mathematically, no more will ever be created.
And that scarcity is absolute.
It's absolute. And that drives desirability and price right through the roof.
Which, okay, that brings us to the third pillar the sources mention, global digital access.
Yeah.
I can remember, and this is dating myself a bit, but I remember when buying a used watch meant like going to a dusty pawn shop or maybe a local jeweler.
Right.
And you just looked at whatever random tray of stuff they happen to have.
Your entire selection was limited to, what, a 10-mile radius?
Exactly. Now, I can pull up an app on my phone and I can see inventory in Tokyo, Dubai, London, New York, all at the same time.
It's the democratization of access, which is amazing for finding inventory, right? If you want a super specific vintage Omega from 1968 with a particular dial, you can probably find it somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But, and this is a huge but, it completely removes the physical inspection element.
You can't touch it.
You can't hold it, you can't wind it, you can't listen to the movement. You're buying a high-value item, sometimes for the price of a car, based entirely on pixels on a screen.
And that distance.
Yeah.
That physical gap. That's where all the risk lives.
That is precisely where the risk creeps in. But before we get to the risk, we have to talk about the fuel on this fire. I mean, why are people willing to take these risks? Why would you spend $20,000 on a wire transfer to a complete stranger on the other side of the planet? Correct. The sources we looked at highlight this factor of collectability and liquidity. Since, I'd say around 2020 especially, we've seen this massive shift. Watches aren't just jewelry anymore, they're alternative assets.
I've seen the charts. I mean, for a while there, certain watches were outperforming the S&P 500. They were outperforming gold.
And that attracts a completely different kind of buyer, you know?
Yeah.
It brings in the speculator, the investor, the person who sees a watch not as a beautiful piece of microengineering, but as a portable liquid store of value.
And wherever you have that much liquidity and that high of an asset value,
You have predators.
you have predators.
It's inevitable.
Okay, let's pivot to the crisis. Because I think crisis is a word that gets overused a lot. But looking at Source 01, I honestly don't know what else you could possibly call this.
It's an industrial crisis, no other word for it.
Let's just look at that number again, 40 million.
40 million counterfeit watches entering the market annually.
I just want to pause on that for a second because it's so big, it's hard to visualize. 40 million. To put that in context, how many watches does the entire legitimate Swiss watch industry export in a good year?
Roughly. Maybe 20 million on a good year.
Wait, stop. So you're telling me for every single real Swiss watch made, every Rolex, Omega, Patek, even every Swatch, everything, there are 2 fakes entering the market?
Yes. The ratio is 2-to-1 in favor of the fakes.
Oh my God.
Volume-wise, the shadow industry is double the size of the legitimate luxury industry.
That is just, it's staggering. It means statistically, if you see a luxury watch on someone's wrist out in the wild.
Well, and you have to be careful with statistics, obviously, but yes, the sheer prevalence is overwhelming. And the money involved is just as shocking. We're talking about $1 billion in illicit profits generated annually.
$1 billion in profit. That's not a few guys in a basement with some tools. That is a global enterprise.
It's organized crime. It has to be. You're talking complex logistics, manufacturing hubs, global distribution networks, and the impact on the legitimate industry is just, it's severe. The Swiss industry alone is facing about 2 billion Swiss francs in losses.
And, you know, I think it's easy for people to hear that and say, oh, poor Rolex, they lost some money. Who cares? Right.
Yeah.
They're a giant corporation.
That's the cynical view, sure. But look at the next line in that report. 160 million Swiss francs in lost tax revenue. That's money that was supposed to go to public services, infrastructure, you know.
Right.
And even more importantly, look at the human cost.
The jobs.
10,000 jobs.
Eliminated. Just Gone.
Gone. And we're not talking about billionaire CEOs losing their third bonus. We're talking about artisans, dial makers, case polishers, logistics staff, retail workers, people in the Jura Mountains in Switzerland whose families have been making tiny watch parts for generations. This illicit trade literally hollows out the real industry from the inside.
It's a parasitic economy. It just feeds on the host until the host gets sick.
And it specifically targets the strongest hosts.
Okay, let's look at source 03 here. The most targeted list.
Yeah.
Who exactly is in the crosshairs?
Well, it's pretty much a who's who of luxury. Rolex, obviously, is number 1 by a country mile. Then you've got Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Omega, Richard Mille, IWC, Panerai, and Tag Heuer.
So why them specifically? Why not fake a smaller, more obscure independent brand?
It comes down to 2 things, liquidity and recognizability. Counterfeiters are, at the end of the day, businessmen. They want a product they can move and move fast.
Right.
Everybody knows what a Rolex Submariner looks like. It's an icon. It is practically currency. You can go to almost any major city in the world and trade a Submariner for cash within an hour.
It really is the gold standard.
So if you're going to invest the capital to manufacture a fake, you manufacture the one that sells the easiest. You don't fake the obscure 1940s dress watch that only 3 guys on a specific forum even care about. You fake the icon.
Okay, so we've got the scale 40 million, we've got the targets, the big boys. Now we have to talk about the product itself. Because I think a lot of us still have this mental image of a fake watch from, the 90s.
The Canal Street special.
Yeah, exactly. The gold plating is flaking off, the little Rolex crown logo looks like a frog's foot, and the second hand goes tick, 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 instead of sweeping smoothly.
And that stuff still exists, for sure. That's the bottom of the barrel. But that is not what is threatening the serious secondary market. What we need to talk about now are superfakes.
This term superfake, it sounds a little bit like marketing hype, doesn't it?
It's not. It's a technical classification. A superfake is a high-grade counterfeit that is designed to mimic the genuine article down to the micron. And I mean that literally, down to the micron.
How's that even possible? I mean, these brands spend millions, hundreds of millions on R&D and proprietary machines.
Well, technology is a double-edged sword, isn't it? The same high-precision CNC machines, the same 3D scanners, the same laser engraving tools that Rolex uses. The counterfeiters can go online and buy them, too.
So they're just reverse engineering them.
They're doing more than that. They're cloning them. They'll get a genuine watch, they'll completely disassemble it, 3D scan every single component, every gear, every screw, and then they program their own CNC machines to replicate it piece for piece.
What about the materials, though? That was always the big tell.
It used to be, oh, the steel feels a bit light, or the gold is the wrong color. Not anymore. The best fakes are using 904L stainless steel. That is the exact same proprietary alloy that Rolex uses. They're using real ceramic for the bezels. They're using sapphire crystal with the correct anti-reflective coating.
So if I hold a real one in my left hand and a super fake in my right, the weight is right.
The weight is right. The temperature of the metal feels right. The sharp edges of the case feel right. The click of the bezel sounds and feels right.
That is genuinely terrifying.
It gets worse. For a long, long time, the real safety net was the movement. The engine inside. You could open the case back, and even if the outside looked perfect, the inside would be some cheap, generic, off-the-shelf movement.
Right, you pop the hood and you see if it's a Ferrari engine or, a lawnmower engine.
Well, now they have what are called clone movements. They have replicated the actual architecture of the famous calibers. So if you look at a genuine Rolex 3135 movement, and then you look at a high-end clone 3135, even an experienced watchmaker might need a loupe and very good lighting to tell the difference at first glance.
Wow.
The gears are in the same place, the jewels are in the same place, the little finishing patterns are copied, the screws are in the same place.
So all the visual cues that we used to rely on, they're gone.
They are eroding at an incredible speed. And the source material points out another layer to this deception that I find particularly insidious. It's the full set.
The box and the papers.
Exactly. We have all been trained as buyers for decades to trust the papers. If a seller has the warranty card, the manual, the inner box, the outer box, the little hang tag, we instinctively lower our guard. We assume it's legit.
It validates the story, right? It gives it provenance.
It does, but think about it logically for a second. What is harder to manufacture? A Swiss mechanical watch with 300 microscopic moving parts, tolerance to a few microns, or a piece of punted cardboard and a plastic card?
The card is easy.
The card is trivial. If they can perfectly fake the watch, they can certainly fake the warranty card, they can clone the holograms, they can forge the dealer stamps. So you have buyers who are paying a premium for a full set, thinking they're buying safety, when in reality all they've bought is a more expensive, more convincing lie.
It's a complete ecosystem of deception.
It is. But if you think superfakes are bad, there's something that is, in many ways, even more complicated and dangerous. The Frankenwatch.
I love this term. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
It is a horror movie for a serious collector. It's their worst nightmare.
So define it for us. What actually makes a watch a Frankenwatch?
Okay, so a superfake is simple. It's 100% fake. A Frankenwatch is. It's a remix. It's a mutt. It's a watch that has been assembled from a mix of components. Some might be real, some might be fake, and some might be real, but from the wrong watch or the wrong time period.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, let's say you have a vintage Rolex Submariner from the 1960s. The value of that watch is hugely dependent on the originality of the dial. A rare gilt dial from that era might make the watch worth, say, $50,000. A standard later service dial might make that same watch worth only $10,000.
So $40,000 difference just for the little painted disc on the front?
Precisely. So a scammer takes a genuine vintage Submariner case and a genuine movement. All real Rolex parts, but the original dial was damaged or lost. So they swap it out for a very high-quality fake gilt dial made in, Shanghai last week.
So the chassis is real, the engine is real, but the dashboard is a fake.
And they sell it to an unsuspecting buyer as an all-original piece for $50,000. So is the watch fake? Well, mostly no, it's a real Rolex. But is it worth 50 grand? Absolutely not. Its value has been destroyed. It's a Frankenwatch.
That seems incredibly difficult to catch.
It is the hardest thing to catch, because if you do a material test on the case, it's real. If you open it up and check the movement, it's real. You need deep, almost encyclopedic knowledge of fonts and paint textures and loom application from specific years to be able to spot that the dial is wrong.
And the source material mentions has a huge impact on insurance, which is something I hadn't even thought about.
Oh, it's huge. This is the boring but really dangerous part. So you buy this Frankenwatch, you get it appraised, maybe the appraiser even misses it, and you insure it for $50,000. You send the paperwork to your insurance company. 2 years later, your house is broken into, the watch is stolen. You file a claim. The insurance company's investigator starts looking into it. They pull up the high-res photos you submitted for the policy. Their in-house expert takes one look and says, hold on a second. That dial isn't original to a watch with that serial number from that year.
Busted.
Claim denied. Or, best case, they pay you out for the value of the parts, which might be, a fraction of what you paid and what you were insured for. You've been paying premiums on a ghost value.
That is an absolute nightmare scenario. So, okay, we've got a market flooded with 40 million fakes a year. We've got super fakes that can fool a trained eye. We've got Frankenwatches that can fool forensic tests. The old advice was always buy the seller or take it to a watchmaker.
And that is still the gold standard advice. Don't get me wrong, nothing beats a master watchmaker sitting at a bench with a case back opener and a set of tools. But there's a bottleneck.
The expert bottleneck. I see that in the notes.
Experts are human. They're expensive, they take time, and most importantly, they are almost never where you physically need them to be at the moment of a transaction.
Right. If I'm sitting in Chicago and I'm looking at a watch on a website that's based in Berlin, I can't exactly teleport it to my local guy to have him check it out before I click buy.
And the seller in Berlin isn't going to ship you a $20,000 watch for free just so you can take a look. You almost always have to wire the money first.
So you have to pay before you can verify. That's the fundamental catch-22 of online watch buying.
That is the friction point. The speed of the digital market moves way faster than the speed of physical verification. What you need is a filter. You need something that can sit between seeing the listing and making the purchase, something faster than a human.
And this is where we pivot to the solution part of our source stack. This is where the machines come in to fight the machines.
Enter TrustWatch AI.
Okay, so looking at the technical docs for TrustWatch by Hoken Tech, this claims to be a pre-check tool.
That's a really important distinction. It's not trying to replace the watchmaker. It's trying to be the bouncer at the door of the club.
Okay, I like that analogy. So how does it work?
Yeah.
Because, I'm instinctively skeptical of anything that claims to solve a billion-dollar problem with an app. It sounds a bit like snake oil.
And that's a healthy skepticism.
Right.
But it's not magic, it's just math. It's a really simple 3-step process designed for speed. Step 1, you upload a photo of the watch dial.
Just the dial, not the case, or the back.
Just the dial, the face of the watch. That's where most of the tells are.
Okay, step 2.
The AI analyzes the image. And this is the part that's wild. It takes about 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
3 seconds?
I can't even unlock my phone in 3 seconds sometimes. What is it possibly doing in that amount of time?
It's performing a high-speed texture analysis and a pattern matching operation. It's basically looking at the microscopic fingerprint of that specific watch dial.
In step 3.
It gives you a score, a numerical score from 0 to 1. 0 basically means run away, this is bad. 1 means everything looks consistent with a genuine example.
So that's it. It's just a green light, red light.
For the user, yes. But under the hood, the tech is really fascinating. The source mentions it's built on a supervised learning model using a TensorFlow-based process.
Okay, let's ungeek that for a second. Supervised learning. What does that mean?
Think of it like training a very, very intense apprentice. You don't just show the computer a watch and say, figure it out. You have to feed it thousands, tens of thousands of pictures of a real Rolex Submariner, and you label every single one of them real. Then you do the same with thousands of fakes, from the bad ones all the way up to the best Superfakes, and you label all of those fake.
So you're explicitly teaching it what to look for, what's good and what's bad.
You're teaching it the patterns, and because it's a computer, it can see and measure things at a pixel level that the human eye just glosses over. It's looking at the precise kerning and spacing of the letters in the logo, the exact curve of the hands, the finishing on the edges of the hour markers.
Just looking at the geometry of it all.
Geometry, texture, color consistency, everything. And it's doing that across, I think the doc said 500 plus different watch models across those top 7 or 8 brands we mentioned earlier.
Okay, but here's the big question. Accuracy. Because if this thing gives me a false positive, I could lose a ton of money. If it gives me a false negative, I might miss out on a great deal.
The source claims 96.2% accuracy.
96.2%.
Yeah.
It's not 100.
No system is ever 100%. I mean, even human experts make mistakes. But 96.2% for a 3-second check from a single photo is an incredibly high level of confidence. And they validated this using a method called k-fold cross-validation.
There's another one of those terms we need to unpack. K-fold cross-validation.
Right. So imagine a student is studying for a final exam. If you only give the student the exact same questions they studied in the textbook, they might just memorize the answers, right? They don't actually know the subject. They just memorize that 2 + 2 = 4.
Sure, got it.
K-fold is like splitting the textbook into, say, 5 different sections. You train the AI on 4 of those sections, and then you test it on the 5th section that it has never seen before. Then you shuffle them. You train on a different 4 and test on the remaining one. You do this over and over.
So you're constantly forcing it to analyze new data it hasn't been trained on.
Exactly. It's a rigorous way to prove that the AI isn't just memorizing the training photos, it's actually learning the underlying rules of what makes a watch dial real.
Okay, that does make me feel a bit better. It's been properly stress tested.
It has. But, and this is absolutely critical, we need to talk about how you actually use this in the real world. Because the last thing I want is for listeners to think they can just snap a quick pic and then blindly buy a $100,000 watch.
Right. Let's walk through the safe buy flow that's outlined in the notes. This is the practical how-to part for you, the listener.
Okay. Step 1 happens before you even touch the AI. It's seller due diligence.
Back to buy the seller.
Always check their reputation. Read their feedback. If the person just joined the forum yesterday and they're offering a Patek Philippe for half of market price from a blurry photo,
use your brain.
Please use your brain. The AI cannot fix a bad decision.
Okay, so the seller looks okay. Step 2, the photo.
This is where most people will mess up. It's the old garbage in, garbage out principle. The AI is only as good as the image you feed it. You need a high-resolution, well-lit, straight-on shot of the dial. No weird angles, no massive glare from the flash covering up the logo.
So if a seller sends you a blurry photo that looks like it was taken in a dark closet, that's a red flag in and of itself.
A huge one. Ask for a better photo.
Yeah.
If they refuse or make excuses, walk away. Period.
Okay. Step 3, run the pre-check.
You upload that nice, clear photo to TrustWatch, you wait your 3 seconds, you get your score.
And step 4 is the big one. Decide.
If the score comes back low, in the red zone, you walk away. No questions asked. You just saved yourself a massive headache and a lot of money.
And if the score comes back high, in the green,
you proceed, but with caution. This was your filter. You've passed the first gate. Now you can move forward with negotiating, maybe arranging a video call with the seller. And if it's a really high-value piece, you still make a plan to have it physically inspected by a professional, upon arrival.
So it's not a replacement for an expert. It's a tool to rule out the obvious risks so you can focus your time and energy on the likely winners.
Precisely. It's about risk mitigation and efficiency.
And finally, step 5. This is one I wouldn't have thought of on my own. Archive all evidence.
People forget this constantly. You're so excited about getting the new watch, you put it on your wrist, and you immediately delete all the old photos and messages from your phone to clear up space.
I'm so guilty of this.
Don't do that. Create a folder. Securely store the original listing photos, your email or message correspondence with the seller, and a screenshot of the TrustWatch result.
Why is the AI result specifically so important to keep?
Because it timestamps the state of the watch and its likely authenticity at the moment of purchase. It creates a digital footprint. If you ever need to resell that watch in 5 years, having that complete dossier makes you a much more trustworthy seller.
Or if you ever have that insurance nightmare scenario we talked about.
Exactly. It's your chain of custody. It's your proof.
So let's zoom out here for a second. What does all of this mean? Because, we started this conversation talking about the romance of the hunt, and we've ended up talking about neural networks and databases and k-fold validation.
It does feel like a bit of a contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like we're, mechanizing a hobby that's supposed to be about soul and history and craftsmanship.
But look at the alternative. The alternative is a market that's completely overrun by criminals. The alternative is those 40 million fakes a year drowning out the real history and the real craftsmanship.
So the argument is that the technology is actually helping to save the soul of the hobby.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. It's this weird man versus machine loop. The counterfeiters use advanced machines to deceive, so we have to use advanced machines to detect.
I really like that phrase from the notes. The democratization of safety.
It's a good way to put it. It used to be that only the gatekeepers, the big auction houses, the established dealers, had the deep knowledge to spot the really good fakes. They held all the keys to the kingdom.
And then now?
Now, a learner, someone who's just starting out, who's curious but maybe a little intimidated, has a 96.2% accurate expert in their pocket. It levels the playing field. It takes some of the power away from the fraudsters and gives it back to the enthusiasts.
It allows you to trust the transaction again.
And in a market that's entirely built on abstract concepts like scarcity and collectability, trust is the only currency that actually matters. If the trust evaporates, the value of everything goes to zero.
It's like putting steel reinforcements into a shaky building.
That's a perfect metaphor for it.
So we've covered the boom, the absolute crisis of the 40 million fakes, the nightmare of the Frankenwatch, and the 3-second potential solution. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I think the takeaway is pretty simple. Be curious, but be careful. Do your homework.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought to kind of chew on. We've talked about how this AI looks at the fingerprint of the watch, the physical dial. As these AIs get better and better at detecting fakes, and at the same time, the counterfeiters get better and better at using advanced tech to make them. Are we heading toward a future where the physical object itself matters less than the digital verification that's attached to it?
That is the big existential question, isn't it? At some point, are you buying the piece of steel on your wrist, or are you buying the blockchain entry that proves the steel is real?
Something to mull over the next time you're up late, on the hunt. Stay curious, check your sources, and for heaven's sake, check that dial.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.